like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And panicking and like getting another pad and putting that pad on top of my existing pad so that there were 2 layers of pads. My first period, I think I was around 9 years old. And I can't recall if I was really aware of periods at the time. I had an idea that my sister had her period, my older sister had her period, and I know that my mom had bought like this gigantic box of pads. I think it was like wholesale type of box with maybe like 100 boxes of pads in there, each containing like another 20 pads in there. So I knew that was in the house. And we had learned about it in school where they had taken a tampon and dropped it into water and that tampon just went whoosh. But I don't think I really understood, like I didn't connect the dots to be like, okay, this is what this means. It means that you're fertile. None of that. So when I got my period, I wasn't scared, but I was just kind of like, oh, what is this? And I remember kind of like running to my mom and being like, oh, look what's in my underwear. And she went into that closet and pulled out that large box of pads, and she showed me how to put it in my underwear. So I pull this off and then you stick it in your underwear. And then when it's full, you're gonna change it. And then she looked me in the eyes and she was like, so they taught you in school what this means, right? And I remember just being like, yes. I had no idea what she was talking about, but at least at the time. And I think it wasn't until maybe a couple of years later that it dawned on me that she was kind of like saying, okay, you're fertile now and you're of reproductive age, so don't get pregnant. I think that's what she was trying to say. But regardless, so that day, the bleeding was really light, but I think at one point I passed like a blood clot, which at that time I thought was gigantic. But thinking about it now, I think it was probably just a really small piece. But I remember just like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And panicking and like getting another pad and putting that pad on top of my existing pad so that there were 2 layers of pads. And then I think my mom realized what was going on and she came and she asked what was wrong. I was like, there's a lot of blood. And then she saw that I had put 2 pads in there. And she was like, no, that's not how it works. If that one's full, then you put in another pad. You can only have 1 pad at a time. But I guess, something, my brain just panicked and I was like, oh, more pads, more absorption, something like that. But yeah, that was my first experience. And would I say it changed me in any way? Not necessarily. I didn't feel like suddenly I was a woman and I had to act differently or be different. It did make me a little bit more self-conscious when I was on my period, at school and like making sure that I didn't kind of like leak through my pants. So it just added another, honestly, complexity to just being a woman. That's something that you have to be conscious of and think about, that, as a child who didn't have a period, it's not something that bothers you. You're kind of very innocent. You don't think ahead of like, oh, when do I need pads? Do I need to change it? Keeping your hygiene up. So yeah, it kind of, complicated my childhood a little bit. And I think at that point, I realized I was no longer a kid. I had some things that I had to worry about.